What's up YouTube, Webbers5 here, coming at you with my Spellbook Mythical Beast profile. Before we get into the profile, quick shoutouts. So shout out to Jakeslair95 and apologies if I get this wrong, Tomoshibi Blue. Shoutouts to you guys for requesting this profile, and also shoutouts to Max Marley from my locals for setting me up with my Spellworks. On that note, let's get into the profile. Okay, so starting the profile off, let's go into with the monsters. We've got the standard triple Mythical Beast triple Master Cerberus. He searches all of your Mythical Beasts. He's the main beater of the deck. He gets over your problematic monsters. Like anyone who knows Mythical Beasts know this is the main card in the deck, so don't really need to explain that too much. Next up is triple Jackal King. Again, one of the main monsters of the deck. Don't really need to explain this too much. He summons Mythical Beasts from the extra deck as a scale. As a monster, he negates stuff at the cost of 2 spell counters. It's a soft once per turn, so you can do that multiple times if you've got multiple Jackal Kings on board. Next, I'm playing two Mythical Beast Jackal. I cut this down from 3 to make some space for some of the spellbooks. Also, I realized because of Mythical Institution being able to bring out Mythical Beasts from the main deck as well, it also lets you bring stuff back from the extra deck. And since Jackal is the main thing I want to be searching off my Institution, so since I can use Institution to get it from the main deck or to get it back from my extra deck as well as just my main deck, I can just keep recurring it from the extra deck there, so I didn't really feel like I need to play more than 3. I didn't feel like I needed to max out at 3, and I did need some space for some of the spellworks, so I cut it back down, and so far it's been working fine. Next, 3 copies of Mythical Beast Garuda. Still your main source of spell and trap removal. Also works nicely as a hand trap by removing 3 spell counts from your field. Special summon it when your opponent summons a monster or monsters and then return them back to the hand. So pretty useful like that. It kind of sucks that the special summon to bounce something is only once per turn, but since it disrupts summons, that kind of makes it fair. If you could do that as many times as you wanted in a turn, yeah, this card would be just too good. And rounding off the Mythical Beast, I'm playing 2 copies of Mythical Beast Basilisk. In recent testing with these spellbooks, again, I needed to make space for some of those, and frankly, now that we've got things like and I've also tested around that now that I've got things like Institution, I don't really feel like I need to play 3 Basilisk for putting stuff back into the deck. Like, there are moments I do want to put stuff back in the deck, particularly if I'm summoning off Jackal. It lets me put back things like Cerberus, so I can get more searches if I draw into it, but mainly I want to use it to put back the Jackal King so I can summon it back again, off the Jackals. And sometimes, more frequently, recently, I've also been summoning this as a monster just in case I want to get the Basilisk back as well. But yeah, I mainly cut it down from 3 to 2 because we've got Institution now, so there's not less of a need to put stuff back from the extra deck into the main deck, unless I want to summon it off the Jackal. And then rounding off the monsters, I'm in the deck playing 2 Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. He searches any of your spellbook cards upon normal summon or being flipped face up, primarily as the normal summon, because you don't really normal summon too much in this deck. The only monster in this deck you're ever really going to be normal summoning is your Jackal. So useful for that. That's it for the monsters of the deck. Next into the spells, I'll start off with the Mythical Beast specific spells. So 3 copies of Magical Citadel of Endymion, your main source of keeping spell counters on the field, because it gains spell counters every time a spell card resolves. Can also transfer spell counters from a card that had spell counters destroyed. So if one of your Mythical Beast monsters is destroyed by battle or card effect and it had spell counters on it, you get to move all of those spell counters over Endymion, and Endymion can protect itself from destruction by removing a spell counter, so helps keep it going. Next, playing 3 Terraforming, because you want to get to because it's a Mythical Beast deck, you're like spell counters, you want to be able to get to this thing as quickly as you can, so naturally 3 Terraforming helps with that. Next in the Mythical Beast players, playing 3 Beast Magic Attack, playing 3 copies of Beast Magic Attack. Just a great way for. I really like it for its 2 and 4 effects. So the 2 effect is remove 2 spell counters from your field to return a Mythical Beast monster you control to the hand. This is like I like this effect to be able to like reuse Master Cerberus for a search if necessary. I've also found it more recently. It's very useful to have my Mythical Beast dodge like effects. Like particularly if I'm against Dark Magician 84, because he plays things like the Mirror Forces. Sometimes the one I don't see, Storming I'm seeing a lot more frequently, as well as Drowning, actually, when I really don't like Drowning, so at least with Beast Magic Attack, that means if one of my monsters is threatened, or it's being targeted, if it's like being targeted by something, or it's going to be destroyed, banished, whatever, I can just go Beast Magic Attack, remove 2 spell counters, put it back in my hand, then I can for one thing use it again either as a scale or summon it again as a monster. It's also really useful for putting back the Garuda into your hand, so you can use its pop effect or the disruption of summons again, which is really good. And then the 4 effect, and then you remove 4 spell counters to summon a Mythical Beast from your extra deck, and then you can put up, and then it says you can put 2 spell counters on it. Again, I don't understand why the place 2 spell counters is optional. You're going to want to put spell counters on it. And if you choose like one of the big ones like Cerberus or Jackal King, naturally after it's done resolving, they'll get 2 spell counters on their own. So for the big ones, the 4 effect just balances out your spell counters. So you lost 4, you just instantly gained 4 back just on one of the big monsters, and then any other cards you have that gain spell counters gets some spell counters as well. And then there's the 6 effect of remove 6 special summon 1 pendulum from your extra deck. I still can't think of a pendulum monster that I consider worth the 6 spell counters. Again, if any of you guys can think of a monster that you feel is worth 6 spell counters, let me know. I might consider giving it a try. Again, the only pendulum monster I can think of that I could have face up in the extra deck that I would want to summon through 6 spell counters is Nirvana High Paladin, on reason that he's a level 10, which makes him very difficult to be pendulum summoned, and he's got a very strong effect. But I don't play Nirvana High Paladin in this build. I could lie, because there's no easy way for me to do it, because he requires a tuner and a non-tuner synchro monster. I can't really synchro too easily in this deck, and all my levels are varied. And because of his secondary summon requirements, doesn't make it too easy, but again, like I said, if anyone can think of a pendulum monster that they think could be worth the 6 spell counts for me to try, let me know. Maybe I'll consider giving it a try. And to round off the Mythical Beast specific spells, 3 copies of Mythical Institution. But so happy when this card came out. So again, spell counters every time a Mythical Beast pendulum monster card is destroyed. So when one of them is destroyed, it puts 2 spell counters on it. This includes both of them. This includes both in the monster zone and in their pendulum zone. So when they use their pendulum effects to do what they do, you put 2 spell counters on this. And like Endymion, it can protect itself from destruction by removing a spell counter from itself. And then its main usage effect is removing spell counters from your field to add any monster that can have spell counters put on it from your deck or face up in your extra deck to your hand. So this essentially made them so the release of this has made the deck so much more consistent. And it's a soft once per turn effect, so if you've got multiple of them on the field, you can use their effects again. You can use one effect to search, then you can use another one to search. So it's really good like that. This is probably one of the absolute best cards in the deck. Okay, moving into the spellbooks that I'm playing. So kicking it off is the natural 3 Spellbook of Secrets. Like Blue Boy, he searches every one of your spellwork. He searches every one of your spellwork cards, so that's just great. Choose the one which is naturally best for your situation, and then go off from there. Unfortunately, the thing I dislike about the spellbooks is that each one is a hard once per turn card, which means you can only use one of that card in the turn. So can't load spell counters as quickly as, say, Sky Strikers, because they're not restricted to once per turn, but since I can have monsters on the field when I do it, it's kind of nice like that, so at least I'm loading spell counters whenever I am doing it. Next up, 2 Spellbook of Knowledge. I really like this, just for draw power. Takes advantage of also the fact that you can only activate one of each spellbook per turn, so if I've got multiple of a spellbook and I'm like, this is kind of a dead card right now because I'm not going to be able to use it again, I can just be like, okay, that's fine. Knowledge, I'll get rid of it, draw 2. Useful like that. Plus just gives the deck a bit of draw power. Sadly, I can't use it to send the Mythical Beast because since pendulums don't go to the grave, it doesn't work on them. If it did work on pendulums, naturally, I would probably be playing this in Magicians. Next, 2 copies of Spellbook of Fate. Got 3. It's really nice. It's got 3 nice effects, depending. So when you activate it, you banish up to 3 spellbooks from your graveyard. Then you apply a single effect depending on the number of cards that you banished. So if you do 1, you get to bounce a certain spell or trap back to the hand. If you pick 2, you do 2, then you can change the... I'm sorry, I can't read this upside down, actually. I haven't read the 2 effect, I don't use it frequently. So 2 is change 1 monster on the field to face down defense position or face up attack position. Or the 3 effect, which is banish a card on the field, and the banish a card effect doesn't target, which is really good for getting rid of problematic cards. Another thing my friend Max told me about, a good thing of what you can do with Spellbook of Fate, is if you activate your Spellbook of Knowledge, and then you immediately change Spellbook of Fate, and then use one of its effects, you can then use Spellbook of Knowledge to send the Spellbook of Fate you just activated to draw 2 cards, so you don't have to waste getting rid of a different spellbook, because of the rule in the game that cards in chain don't go to the grave until the chain is either fully resolved or an effect would put it into the grave. So essentially in the situation what you can do is activate Spellbook of Knowledge when you've got another spellbook around, then you can immediately change Spellbook of Fate, use the effect that you want, and then resolve to banishing up to 3 to get the effect you want as Chain Link 2, resolve your chain backwards, Chain Link 2, do your banish your Chain Link 2, get the effect you want, and then Chain Link 1 Knowledge, you can send the Spellbook of Fate that's now on your field to the grave, draw 2 cards. Really good. So it's really good like that. Next, playing 2 Spellbook of the Master. So this one's a little bit harder to use, but can be very useful if you get it off. So if you could have a spellcaster on the field, you can reveal a spell. So if you have a spellcaster in your field, you reveal a spellbook from your. You can reveal a spellbook from your hand, and then target a spellbook's normal spell in your graveyard, except for itself, and then Spellbook of the Master steals that card, copies that card's effect. So really useful for recurring other spellbooks. Also lets you actually use your spellbooks once per. So a way to also use your spellbook cards more than once in a turn. So you can activate So you can do, so if you say you've opened a Spellbook of Secrets and a Spellbook of the Master, you go Spellbook of Secrets, search one card that you want, then you can search one card that you want, activate Spellbook of the Master, reveal the card you searched, and then copy Spellbook of Secrets to add another card. In terms of the Spellbook of Knowledge play, you can use it like that. Unfortunately, however, I did check the ruling on this. Even though it only copies the effect since it does only copy the effect. I checked the ruling on since it copies the effect as opposed to the name of the card. I was checking the ruling of if you can activate it to choose Spellbook of Knowledge, can you just send itself to draw 2? Turns out you can't, because a card cannot be used to send it. Because in that situation, the card cannot be used to send itself to meet the requirements. I know some of you might be thinking, well, if that's the case, how exactly is it that Zodiac Barrage can do that? Simply put, in that case, it's because Barrage's cost is merely to the cost of Barrage is to target, so at the resolution it destroys and then does its effect. So it's one of those weird complicated rulings. I don't really know the definitive ruling of why you can't do it, but you can't, which kind of sucks. Next, I'm playing two copies of Spellbook Star Hall. Just a way to put. So this card also gets spell counters whenever. So this card gets spell counters whenever a Spellbook spell card is activated, and then all spellcasters you control gain 100 attack for each spell counter that's on this card. And then if it's destroyed while it's got spell counters on it, and then if it's destroyed while it has when it's got spell counters on it, and so you get to add a spellcaster from your deck to your hand whose level is equal to or less than the number of spell counters that you had on the card. Sadly, I believe it does have to be destroyed, sent by an opponent's card. Oh no, it's just when it's destroyed. No, just when it's destroyed with spell counters. So if say you've reached a point that you've got a Garuda in your hand, your opponent's got no back row on it, you could in fact just do. If you've loaded up enough spell counters on Star Hall and you're not worried about the attack bonus, or say you've got multiple of them on the field and you don't really need it too much, or you desperately need another monster, you can go Garuda, effect of Garuda, target your Star Hall, pop it, and then you get a search of that, which is pretty nice. Next, one Spellbook of Eternity. This lets you choose one of your banished Spellbook cards except for itself and return it to your hand. So naturally that combos well with Spellbook of Fate. So after you've done your effect of Fate to banish up to 3, you've then got the option of Spellbook of Eternity later to put one of those banished cards back into your. You've got the option of Eternity to put one of those banished cards back into your hand so you can use it again later. And then finally, the last card in the deck, playing one Spellbook of Power, just to help give my Mythical Beasts a bit of extra points, because yes, I know Master Cerberus can target something, banish it, and gain its attack points till the end phase of the next turn. Sometimes you just need a little bit more. Simultaneously, Spellbook of Power has the extra effect that if the targeted monster destroys a monster in battle, you get to add a Spellbook card from your deck to your hand, so that can help set you up for your next. So that can help you set up for the next turn, getting things like a Secret or Fate, whatever you need at the time. So yeah, just trying that at 1 for the moment, but so far I'm liking it. I would go into the extra deck, but frankly in this deck I don't really tend to use my extra deck too frequently. Most of them are just situational cards of what I could do, but since they're not exactly like crucial to the way I play it, I'm not really going to go into it right now. So apologies about that. Okay, so that's the deck profile, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again to Jakeslair95 and Tomoshibi Blue for requesting this. Really hoped it gave you guys a bit of an insight into the deck. I'll I'm hoping to do a couple more uploads of my deck, of some of my other deck profiles within the next few days. So thank you so much for watching. Like the comment, like the video as always if you enjoyed it. And as I said previously, if you guys can think of a pendulum that you feel is worth 6 spell counters for, do let me know in the comments below. And if you really enjoyed my content, guys, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And for those who already subscribed to the channel and like my content, feel free to hit that notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you soon.